afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Chine. I'm an SDR at SEAL, and I want to officially welcome each and every one of you to today's webinar. It promises to be insightful, fun, and very, very impactful. All right, so before we continue, I would like to get some reaction. I want to know if you're here with me. Just make some reaction. Let's know that we're together today. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so today's topic is the advantages of Windows workloads on AWS. All right, so like I said, I'm your host for today. But before we proceed to the webinar proper, I would like to introduce us to some basic housekeeping rules for this webinar. First, I want us to understand that this session is being recorded and uploaded on our social media channels. You can check out this the replay on YouTube at Secure Intelligence Limited. If you miss any part of the session or you want to, go back to have a replay of this webinar, you'll find it on YouTube at Secure Intelligence Limited. Secondly, attendees can react or raise hands during the presentation. If you check below your screen, you would see a reaction button. You can always use that reaction button during the webinar. Okay, show some reactions if you're excited. All right, and we have a Q&A comment session. So this is for your questions. You don't have to wait till the end of the webinar for you to drop your questions so you do not forget. All right, so every question that is in the Q&A comment session will be attended to, all right, as soon as we're done with the presentation. All right, so for those of you who are joining us here this webinar for the very first time, I want to say a very big welcome to you. Okay, and we are Secure Intelligence Limited. At SEAL Teams, we like to see ourselves as solution builders. Okay, we apply technology to drive effectiveness, agility, and growth for your business. We are positioned to help enterprises scale globally. Our focus is you and the growth of your business. All right, we work with 4 major pillars here at SEAL. One is the global mindset. We also work with multi-cloud competence, all right, agility, and what is paramount is the growth for your business. Okay, so let's move straight into the webinar. And today, like I said, it's going to be awesome. All right, so to take us into the agenda and the topic proper for today's webinar is our speaker for today. He's a data engineer with specialized workload at SEAL. Okay, he has experiences with ERP systems and databases. He also is a certified solutions architect with AWS. He also has a lot of certifications with Google and Microsoft. In summary, he's loaded and he has a lot for us today. So let's make some reactions for Cosmo as he comes to take us on the agenda and the topic for today. You're welcome, Cosmo. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Nenya, for being kind. And welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I will take you through our agenda for now. I will go through about 15 slides. And
Cosmo, are you still here?
And we are going to delve deeper into certain aspects of AWS. Firstly, AWS performance and availability. And then we will go into security, which is a very important topic in the cloud. With all the legislation and the new world that we're going into, security is a big issue, as well as migration expertise. Then we'll go into a very important topic, cost efficiency and licensing flexibility. these two are interlinked, and total cost of ownership is a very important consideration when you consider migrating your workloads to the cloud. We will also look at some advanced technologies that AWS offers that are almost unparalleled in that space, and that gives us more reasons why we should consider moving our workloads onto our Microsoft and Windows workloads onto AWS. Lastly, we'll go through about 3 slides of a case study on a customer that successfully migrated their Microsoft workloads onto AWS. So without wasting much time, we will go on to our first slide and answer the question, why should we run Windows on AWS? We know Windows is Windows and Microsoft are popular applications and software that almost any and every organization runs. I don't think there is any major organization that does not use one of their products. On the other hand, we also know that AWS is a leading cloud provider. Though it doesn't seem to be like the two could go hand in hand, the marriage of these two can actually result in good benefits. So what you see on the screen there shows that benchmarking research reveals that there is quantifiable benefit from running your Microsoft workloads on AWS. Looking at the numbers, AWS offers best performance, more availability zones, that's more than twice, more security services, that's 5x, and lower costs. And in general, AWS is still the leading and most innovative cloud provider with years of experience and partner networks to migrate and optimize your workloads. They also have a strong network of partners to assist clients with their Microsoft and Windows workloads. On the next slide, you will see other considerations beyond superior metrics and KPIs. So here, we are looking at the fact that AWS is a proven cloud provider. They are a reliable cloud provider. They are also a secure cloud provider. Though on this slide, I will dwell more on the first two, as I've dedicated a full slide later on security. So what do we mean by a proven cloud provider? They have almost 2 decades of experience with Microsoft applications and services. This is way more years than any other cloud provider, including the owners of Microsoft, who also happen to have their own cloud offering. So when it comes to running Microsoft on the cloud, AWS has more experience, and they've optimized these services over the years. Hundreds of thousands of databases and workloads have been successfully migrated, optimized. They are also the best platform for one of the most popular, for some of the most popular services, which is the Windows Server and the SQL Server, with superior performance, security, and reliability. So they are the most robust, available, fault-tolerant cloud network supported through a well-set-up network of regions with various availability zones and edge locations. AWS excels in this better than any other cloud provider. The next slide gives a brief detail on major Microsoft services available and optimized on AWS cloud. These are not all the services that you see, but these are some of the major services. We cannot talk about computing without talking about compute. So for compute service, Microsoft or Windows offers the famous Windows Server. You can run this in the cloud on AWS on EC2. There are various ways you could do it. You could run your Windows shift straight onto EC2 and run it there on a remote computer. You could use Amazon EC2 dedicated host. And there are other complicated configurations that we could do that we may not be going into detail of at this point in time. Second, there's databases. Microsoft SQL Server is one of the most famous databases that are used in industry. And this you can run on AWS using two solutions. Again, EC2, you can run your SQL Server on EC2, or you could run it on the optimized relational database service called RDS. Then storage. There is the Windows File Server. There is a service. Later on, we will actually talk about the fact that this is actually the only cloud solution to the Windows File Server. It's called Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. There's also another solution to run it on Amazon Elastic Block Store, but the recommended route is to go for the FSx for Windows File Server. Lastly, on this slide, there is migration for migrating your Windows applications and services. There is a service for that in AWS, which is the Migration Hub orchestration. So on top of what you see on the screen, there are other services that you may not be able to do without as you move your workloads. I'll just mention them. One of them is the Active Directory, and AWS offers the managed Active Directory, so you could run your Microsoft Active Directory on Amazon as a managed service. For containers, you can run your Windows container services using Amazon ECS and EKS, which are scalable container services. Amazon also offers AWS Fargate, which is a serverless compute orchestration service. And lastly, on my mention, there is the AWS Toolkit for Visual Studio. And this is important, as we shall see later in the case study, that doing your development work straight on AWS, moving your VS Code and .NET Core development system straight onto AWS can result in significant gains in productivity and speed to market. So the next slide delves into AWS superior performance and availability. Before I proceed, I just want to say that if you have questions, comments, we actually do have a Q&A at the end of the session. You could jot them down or put them in the Q&A section, and we will attend to that towards the end. So, AWS performance and availability. They offer unmatched performance and global availability. And by moving your Microsoft workloads to AWS, especially with the help of trusted AWS partners, you can realize better customer satisfaction through better performance and availability. This can result in a significant reduction of up to 98% in unplanned downtime, and that can convert to the difference between this success or failure of your company. Why do I say so? Most of the downtime usually happens, and almost always happens, at the most crucial time due to pressure on the system, and that's the time that you need to make sales to offer the most important service to your customer, and that's when you lose most of your revenue, and you might not be able to get those customers back. You can also realize 71% faster deployment, which converts to better speed to market, and a 26% higher developer productivity by using the AWS development ecosystem. These metrics are unmatched in the industry, and you can achieve them by partnering with experts like us. The next slide deals with the issue of security, as I said earlier on. So security and migration expertise. AWS offers superior security and extensive migration support. The AWS EC2 compute service, which is the backbone of most services, runs on a secure Nitro system. And the Nitro chip continuously monitors, tests, and verifies instance hardware and firmware. This is just to show you that even from the basic structure, they had security in mind. Over and above that, there are over 230 security and compliance services that are interweaved into the services that you use. And this is way more than what you get from the next best cloud provider. When it comes to migration expertise, there is no substitute for experience, and AWS has migrated about 1 million databases. And the lessons learned and the optimizations that were cumulatively gained cannot be replaced by anything. We, Secure Intelligence, can also help you with achieving this. We can help you securely and quickly migrate legacy Windows Server applications to the latest supported versions on AWS with minimum downtime using appropriate tools, and best practices. On the next slide, we will discuss licensing and cost efficiency. Total cost of ownership that I mentioned earlier on is a major consideration when migrating your workloads to the cloud. The cost of licensing is significant, especially when you are talking about Windows and Microsoft. I will give an example. For a Windows Server only, you can pay as much as $259 per month. If you add a standard license to that, the monthly cost doubles to $610 from $259. If you add a SQL Server Enterprise license, it goes from the $259 that I mentioned without a license to $1,357 per month. So I'm mentioning this because I'm about to go into the different options on licensing that you can consider when you're looking at your Windows and Microsoft workloads. You can bring your own license to AWS and use the license manager to manage your licensing. You can also use shared tenancy, which is a multi-tenant service where servers host instances for multiple customers. You can use dedicated host. And what are dedicated hosts? This is where servers host instances dedicated to one AWS account. You can also use dedicated instances where a single tenant server host instance is dedicated to one AWS account. You can quickly see that I am going into some technical territory. I've just scratched the surface of what these services are. The permutations that you get, I haven't spoken about the fact that when we want to optimize your workloads, we actually want to look at the activity on your databases and all the services that you use so that we can make a data-driven decision on how to optimize it. My colleague here, Nene, is going to briefly talk to you about some of the services, the expertise that we have to help you optimize things like licensing agreements.
Okay, thank you, Cosmo. Here at SEAL, we have technical competencies, okay, to help you with data, cloud, front-end engineering, and also cloud migration. So if you want to, if you require assistance with cloud migration, we can offer you that assistance, okay, help you with optimized migration solutions, right, for your organization. Okay, so if you want us to help you migrate your Windows workload also to AWS, we're your best bets. All right, so we have technical competencies that are readily available. Okay, so if you want to reach out to this team of experts, you can book a free consultation call with us. I'll be dropping the link in the Q&A comment section. All right, so you click on the link. It's absolutely free. All right, just book a one-on-one consultation with a team of experts and guide you through the rest. Thank you, Cosmo.
Thank you so much. So by doing this, if you work with us, you can realize up to 36% savings over 3 years. This is a benchmark. On the next slide, we discuss some advanced technologies where AWS leads, and this should give you more reasons to consider running your Microsoft workloads on AWS. So it is surprising that the Amazon FSx for Windows file server is the only fully managed native Windows file system on the cloud. It is surprising because the creators of Windows and Microsoft actually have a cloud offering as well. So this just goes to show how AWS has been working with Windows workloads on the cloud longer than any other cloud provider. We also have high-performance block storage with EBS to support your SQL Server deployments. This is not to say that there are no other offerings for elastic block storage, but when you look at the metrics, AWS offers 99.999% availability, 99.999, that is 5 nines durability. This is unmatched in the cloud space and should give you more reason to consider moving your mission critical workloads, Microsoft and Windows workloads, to AWS with us. Lastly, continuous innovation. Services designed specifically for Windows application, enhancing throughput. I'm reading that, but what I mean is networking on AWS delivers 3 times more throughput and 25% lower latency than the next best cloud provider. The more reason why you should partner with us to move your Microsoft and Windows workloads to AWS. So I've spoken a lot about why, how much, and all those things about Microsoft workloads onto AWS. Has anyone actually done this in the past and succeeded? So the next slide, we actually go into a case study of a company called Firefox. This is a company based in Japan. They offer cloud file storage service and document management to over 300 corporate clients globally. I want to start with a quote from their CEO, where he said, "We often have customers asking us for new features, and we can deliver those features in a week instead of months because of the agility we get by running on AWS." So just keep this in mind as we go through what challenges they faced before the CEO could say this. They needed faster software updates, but they were held back because they were running their software on premises, which means they needed to manage infrastructure and everything that goes with it. So they were limited to 3 months deployment cycles on new features. So to go around this, the solution was to select AWS to move their Windows workloads and partner with them as a cloud provider so they can overcome all the challenges that they were facing. For their database, they chose Amazon RDS, and for their development, they adopted .NET Core, which you'll see later on that it resulted in way better productivity than what they were getting by working on premises. On the next slide, we will see how enhanced agility, how this resulted in enhanced agility and faster feature deployment. So 90% of their code deployments were automated, and this actually helped them from doing the monthly or 3-month releases to actually weekly. The tools that they utilized, among other, but the main tools that they utilized were EC2, S3, and elastic load balancing. And on the next slide, you are going to see how this resulted in cost savings and opened up possibilities that were not available to them for future initiatives. They were able to save costs. They were able to have speed to market with new features, and they actually had happier and more satisfied customers. I actually want to talk a little bit more about the possibilities that they got for future opportunities. By migrating to AWS, they are now looking at moving some of their workloads from Windows-based systems to Linux, which was not available to them when they're working on premises because they were locked into the Microsoft and Windows system. But moving to AWS opened all these possibilities for them. And we are not saying per se that move your Windows Microsoft so that you can move to Linux. The purpose of bringing this is to say that it opens possibilities. And if that possibility is good for your business, yes, you should take it because that is how you lower your total cost of ownership. And I am going to end again with a quote from the CEO that AWS scalability and agility are crucial for our growth and cost management. A company that grows and at the same time reduces costs is a gem. And they achieved this by partnering with AWS. So this is what I wanted to present to you today. And thank you very much for listening to my presentation. And over to you, Nena.
Okay, thank you very much, Cosmo. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Yes, let's show some reaction. Thank you so much. All right, it was an insightful presentation. I learned something. All right, and so if you have questions for Cosmo concerning this presentation, please drop them in the Q&A session. All right, so that it can be attended to. Okay, so while we're waiting for more questions, I have a question here, Cosmo, for you. Okay, it says, does it mean that one can move all activities carried out on Windows workloads to AWS? So I think this person wants to understand if he or she can move all the activities that are currently carried on Windows workloads to AWS.
Good question. And the answer is not a direct no or yes. Not every workload need to be moved to the cloud or to AWS. There are some small workloads that you can cost efficiently do on premises. But when it comes to these optimized services, especially the ones that we highlighted during the webinar, that have been identified over the years to require more computing power, to require more security, to require more scalability, you are better off migrating this to the cloud. Is you will benefit from the accumulated experience of optimizing them on AWS. So not each and every Microsoft or Windows workload needs to be migrated, but the specialized ones that most definitely will need to be considered. And this is where the total cost of ownership calculations come into play. And this is where the experts that we have within Secure Intelligence can assist you in making a data-driven decision on what to keep and what to.
Okay.
I answered.
Thank you so much. All right, for that answer. All right, so if you want to migrate your Windows workload to AWS, we are here at SEAL, okay, ready and available to help you with that migration. All right, so you can book a one-on-one consultation with our team of experts. The link is on the Q&A session, but I will repost it again for those of you who joined later. All right, so we also have a program for you if you're trying to transition into tech, if you're not really into tech, or you want basic knowledge about tech, or you know somebody around you who would love this program. It's called Zero to Techie. This program is tailored to suit this particular need of yours. All right, we also run corporate trainings for your team. Okay, trainings on front end, all right, data engineering, all right, we help build your team, we help train your team to be able to carry out your technical services for your organization. Okay, so please feel free to book a one-on-one session with us. It is totally free. All right, and you can visit us on our social media channels. Okay, on Twitter we are @seal_teams. You can also check us out on Seal Academy. Okay, our social media pages on YouTube we are Secure Intelligence Limited. Facebook we are all right. Okay, I think there's a question here. All right, there's a question here for you, Cosmo. It says majority of companies on Microsoft are offered the Azure hybrid benefits to migrate their Windows workload, which is perceived less risky to Microsoft users. What would you advise as the main reason to not consider the hybrid benefits but use AWS services aside from what you shared?
Again, a good question. That's the reason why in one of my slides went into the reasons why we should consider AWS. And in most cases, when I mentioned the next best cloud provider, that was reference to Azure, because it's a non-secret that they are the next best in terms of reach and experience. So on the benchmarks that were done, those benchmarks were not done by AWS, they were done by independent research. The metrics that came up actually showed that, for example, running your Microsoft SQL Server on AWS, they actually benchmarked it on a similar compute service that is comparable to an Azure compute service. And in fact, the AWS one came out, the performance was better and the total cost of running it was lower. So the performance was actually 2 times better than what you get on Azure. So on all those metrics that I gave you on the second slide, the comparison where it said the next best was actually Azure. So yes, do consider that, which is why you need to make a data-driven decision and why you need to engage experts to help you decide. And remember, even when Nene introduced this session, she said that we are multi-cloud. We are not averse to the other clouds. So AWS, 1, has more experience. 2, it's optimized for certain workloads on the cloud better than even Azure. And some services, for example, the FSx service, you cannot find that in Azure. You can only find it in AWS. That's why in my presentation, I actually said it's actually ironic that this is a native Windows service that you find only on AWS cloud and not on the other clouds. On the other clouds, I meant Azure and GCP and the other ones. So yes, you should consider that. But for the services that we identified, you will find that you are better off running some of them in, if not all of them, on AWS.
Okay, Cosmos, are you done? I didn't hear you. I can hear you again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Should I repeat my answer?
Hello?
Should I repeat my answer?
Okay, no, I think, yeah, I heard you, but I thought I lost you at some point. All right, thank you for the answer. Thank you so much. All right, so if you have more questions for Cosmo, please drop them in the Q&A session. And if you would like to get or make further inquiry about the webinar, please feel free to click on the consultation link and book a one-on-one session. If you're also interested in the training, the Zero to Techie training or the corporate training, whichever one, we're here for you. So just click on the link, book a session, and we'll get you onboarded right away. All right, so if there are no more questions for Cosmo, I would like to say thank you very much for joining today's webinar. It was awesome. And thank you, Cosmo, for the insightful presentation. To everyone that joined and stayed true to this point, thank you very much. You can, check us out on our social media platforms. We're on Instagram at seal_teams, on LinkedIn at Secure Intelligence, on Twitter at seal_teams, and on Facebook at seal teams. So whichever one is better for you, okay? So just click on those links, check us out on the social media platform, follow us, like our pages, and you can also put on the notification button so that you get more information and promptings when we have or post anything, because it will be useful to you. So thank you very, very much for joining today's webinar, and hope to see you next time.